Hello and welcome to the Europe Conversation. I'm Stefan Grobe. His country only became a member of the European Union in 2004, but has one of the oldest histories of human civilization in the world. He's one of only 4 heads of state in the European Council. He will assume the rotating EU presidency next January, and he is my guest today. The president of Cyprus, Nikos Christodoulides. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for coming.
Good morning, Stefan. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here.
I mentioned Cyprus's history of 9,000 years. Now, you are a historian. You worked at the University of Cyprus. I wonder, how can Cypriots and Europeans at large benefit from a historian as a president?
You know, history, as you know very well, repeats itself. So knowing the history, and not only the history of your country, but the history of your region, the European history, the world history, helps you in a way how you approach today's challenges and how you tackle the challenges that we have ahead of us. So I think history is very important to be known, and taking under consideration what happened is a great benefit in order to face today's challenges.
So as of January, you have another task on your plate when Cyprus will take over the EU presidency from Denmark. I guess many of the problems will remain, but what can we expect here in Brussels? Will there be a Cypriot way of doing business, of conducting diplomacy?
For sure, we're going to have a Cypriot touch in the way European Union approaches, the issues that we have in front of us. We have 2 major priorities. The first one is how to tangibly enhance the strategic autonomy of the European Union. And when I say strategic autonomy, I don't mean just defense and security. I will explain in a little bit. And the second one is to bring the European Union closer to our region, to Middle East, to the greater Middle East. You know, Cyprus is a member state of the European Union, as you very correctly mentioned, since 2004. But at the same time, we are part of the Middle East. We are half an hour flight away from Lebanon, 40 minutes from Israel, 50 minutes from Egypt, 50 minutes from Jordan, half an hour from Syria, and so on. So I'm going to our first priority, which is to enhance the European Union's strategic autonomy. As a European Union, we are, and we used to be more in the past, dependent on our security from the United States. As a European Union, we were dependent on energy from Russia. As a European Union, we are dependent on our raw materials from China. So how can we be strategically autonomous and play a leading role, the role that our citizens are expecting from us to play as a European Union, if we are dependent in 3 other countries? For example, MFF, one of the most important files of the European Union. The Danish presidency is doing an excellent job, and we're going to continue from the Danish presidency. For us, it's not just the budget of the European Union for the next 7 years. The multi-annual financial framework is the most important political tool to show to our people where the European Union, we want the European Union to be in the next 7 years. So the multi-annual financial framework, of course, should reflect the traditional, if I may say, files of the European Union, cohesion policy, common agricultural policy, etc., but at the same time should reflect the priorities of the European Union today.
Let me throw some keywords in here. You mentioned security. I mentioned Ukraine. You think you're going to see the end of the war in Ukraine during your presidency?
To be fully honest with you, I don't see that coming. I don't see the end of the war in Ukraine coming. But as a European Union, we should continue our clear position towards the illegal Russian invasion and occupation in Ukraine. We need to support Ukraine. We need to continue supporting Ukraine. And within this context, I will let you know that I'm planning on December 4, ahead of our presidency, to visit Kiev, to visit Ukraine, to show that even Cyprus is coming from the Middle East. We are not part of the, let's say, Eastern Europe. Ukraine will continue to be our priority.
Another hot topic all across Europe is immigration. The numbers of illegal immigrants are going down, yet it is still in the mind of very many Europeans the number one issue. What has Europe learned over the past years, and is the path that Europe charted the right one?
Numbers today are much better, as you very correctly mentioned. But if we want to solve this problem, because there is another aspect, illegal migration kills legal migration. And as Europe, we need legal migration. But in order to really face the problem of migration, we need to concentrate as a European Union, and that's what we are planning to do as a presidency, to face the root causes of migration. We need to talk with the countries that migrants are coming in order to create the condition in those countries for their people not to live and come in Europe. So the most important aspect, if we really want to face migration, is to face the root causes of the phenomenon.
And how do we do that?
Working together with the countries, supporting them. If we don't create the conditions in those countries, in order for the young people, for example, to stay in their countries, I mean economic conditions, political conditions, etc., then we'll never face the problem of illegal migration.
Speaking of coming to Europe, enlargement. A topic that has been dormant for many, many years, but now we're going to see some action here, some activity. Do you think that Europe is ready for another round of enlargement?
I remember back in 2014, President Juncker saying that by 2024 we're going to have the next enlargement of the European Union. And we're in 2025, and of course, we don't see enlargement, and nobody's talking with enlargement. Enlargement is one of the most important geopolitical tools of the European Union, and I'm afraid to say that we are losing this very important tool because we did a lot of promises and we didn't deliver. So that is why during our presidency, we want to see an important positive step towards enlargement, and I think we can have positive developments, especially with Montenegro. I visited Montenegro, ahead of our presidency, together with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister of European Affairs. We visited all member states plus candidate countries in order to prepare ourselves, because we want to listen to our partners, we want to listen from the candidate countries in order to be ready during our presidency. And I think with Montenegro, it's a small country, so the dilemma, more integration or enlargement, is not so. We can face this dilemma, and I think we can bring Montenegro closer to the accession to the European Union. Because if we don't have positive developments on enlargement, I'm very concerned that the people in those countries, the candidate countries, and in some countries we see this, they will turn their back to the European Union and they will find other ways. And we see in the Balkans, for example, Western Balkans, we see a number of other actors, non-EU actors, having a leading role because those countries, they don't believe anymore in the prospect of joining the European Union.
Speaking about money, it's a kind of a topic that is not in the big headlines, but it is a very serious problem, and that is public debt. Many member states are suffering from public debt that is no longer sustainable. Is austerity a word that we're going to use more often in the future?
No, I don't believe on austerity. I believe on responsible fiscal policy. And I'm very glad to say that being in power in Cyprus for 2.5 years now, our public debt is less than 60% of GDP. When we won the elections back in March 2023, public debt was approximately 75% of our GDP. And not through austerity, through responsible fiscal policy, we have these results today.
It was actually 115% 5 years ago, so you've come a long way. Cyprus also has one of the highest budget surpluses in the European Union, 1.3%, and a growth outlook of 3% until 2027.
An employment rate less than 5%, which it is actually the biggest challenge for us now to bring back to Cyprus talent. That's why we initiated a campaign starting from London, from brain drain to brain gain, in order to bring Cypriots and Europeans back to Cyprus.
And Cyprus has been upgraded by all the major rating agencies recently.
Exactly.
So how do you do this? I mean, if you walk in here speaking to your European colleagues, they must be jealous.
Responsible fiscal policy. Whatever we promise to people, we deliver, but we promise to people only what we can deliver.
Let's talk about the situation in the Middle East now. You've said at the beginning, no country in the EU is closer to the region than Cyprus. How do you see the peace process going forward? But first of all, you were at the signing ceremony of the ceasefire agreement in Sharm el-Sheikh. Tell us about it. How was it?
First of all, it was a great honor for Cyprus to be invited, to be there, being invited by President Sisi and President Trump. We welcome the initiative of President Trump. I don't underestimate the challenges that we have ahead of us, but we need to work with all partners in the region in order to implement the plan of President Trump. And that is why, before going to Sharm el-Sheikh, I talked with the President of the Commission, with the President of the Council, I talked with President Sisi, the Prime Minister of Israel, the President of UAE, His Majesty, the King of Jordan, in order to work together in order to safeguard the implementation of the plan. There is no other alternative right now in front of us. And that is why, working especially with the Commission, Cyprus presented a very specific plan in order to help to the implementation of the 20-point Gaza peace plan of President Trump. And allow me, our plan, based also on our excellent relations with all stakeholders. We have excellent relations with Israel. We have excellent relations with all Arab partners in the region, excellent relations with the United States, being member state of the European Union, being member of the state of the region. We prepared this plan, which is touches on the humanitarian aid delivery. It's the points of point 7 and point 10 of President Trump's plan. Secure goods and dual-use screening, the points 13 and 15 of President Trump plan. Third point, rubble removal and reconstruction enablement, the points of point 2, 10 and 14 of President Trump's plan. Training, stabilization and reconciliation support, point 9, 15 and 18 of President Trump's plan. Contribution to the International Stabilization Force, point 15 of President Trump's plan. And the 6-point contribution to the Economic Development Plan, which is point 10 of President Trump's plan. So we put forward these very specific ideas, building, as I told you, on our excellent relations with all stakeholders, building on our previous initiative. You know, Cyprus presented back in October 23 in Paris, following the terrorist attack of Gaza, an idea for a humanitarian maritime corridor from Cyprus to Gaza, and we did it. We deliver with the support of our partners, the European Union, the United States, UK, UAE, and we are ready at this stage as the representative of the European Union in the region to deliver once again.
What about rebuilding and reconstructing Gaza? This is for the people who live there the most obvious necessity. Do you have an idea when this can start, how long it would take, who will be the players, and what role does Cyprus have?
That is why it's very important to implement the first phase of President Trump's plan. Because if we don't have a ceasefire, if we don't have the political conditions there, we cannot talk about rebuilding. When we reach the stage of ceasefire and the conditions are there, reconstruction should start. And that is why point 3 of our proposal is the rubble removal and reconstruction enablement. So development, and this is the role that Cyprus can play, development of maritime routes for rubble extraction and inbound construction materials in Gaza in order to support Gaza's rebuilding and, of course, economic revival.
What about the two-state solution? An initiative that is very much liked in Brussels. President Trump doesn't like it so much. The Israelis don't like it so much. Is this still a viable option?
There is no alternative to the two-state solution. Let's be clear. And we cannot reach peace in the region without the solution of the Palestinian issue based on the two-state solution.
That was pretty clear. Speaking of a two-state solution, that is something that Turkish President Erdogan has mentioned when he was in New York, speaking about the Cyprus dispute. And he said, with the same clarity, he said there is no other solution. What do you respond?
What I mentioned is a two-state solution for the Palestinian issue. This is what the UN Security Council resolutions are talking about. In the case of Cyprus, the Security Council resolutions, the international community, the European Union, everybody is clear. The solution of the Cyprus problem should be based on bizonal, bicommunal federation. And it's only Mr. Erdogan that is promoting this unacceptable idea for a two-state solution, that there is no way even to discuss such a possibility in Cyprus. I hope I was so clear as I was before with the issue, with the Palestinian issue.
So a few days ago, in the northern part of Cyprus, a very pro-European candidate won in a landslide, Tufan Erhüman. How do you assess this outcome? Does it give you hope? Could this be a potential game changer?
Indeed, last week we have a voting procedures in the occupied areas of Cyprus for the leadership for the Turkish Cypriot leadership, and Mr. Tufan, the leader who during the election campaign was saying that he's against two-state solution, he's against what President Erdogan was saying in the UN General Assembly, was elected. I believe that this is a positive development, but we want to see at the table of the negotiations. What is important is during the resumption of the talks, and I'm ready to resume negotiations even next week, what is going to be presented by the Turkish Cypriot and the Turkish side. So if the new leader of the Turkish Cypriot community comes to the negotiating table and talk clearly about bizonal, bicommunal federation, then I think the road is open for the solution of the Cyprus problem based on the UN Security Council resolutions.
So you would be ready to sit down with him?
I'm ready to sit with him next week.
You have written, I think, 2 books about the Cyprus conflict, and being a historian and looking at things in large perspectives. What is the perspective for Cyprus of being united? You know what people feel on the island on both sides. What is your sense?
Look, the current status quo cannot be the solution of the Cyprus problem. The solution of the Cyprus problem, to reunite our country, is the only option ahead of us. And from my side, I will do whatever is necessary in order first to resume negotiations and then solve the Cyprus problem. There is no frozen conflict. You see what happened in Gaza. Everybody was under the impression that we have a frozen conflict there. And since October, we see the developments and the tragedy in Gaza. So if we want to reach the full potential of our country, both Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, we need to reunite our country. Reunite our country, member state of the European Union. And being a member of the European Union is the best guarantee for the future of our country.
All right. Nikos Christodoulides, President of Cyprus. Thank you, sir, for a great Europe conversation.
Thank you very much.